will hand it over to you, Surya, just to introduce Jeff, who's going to be our next speaker.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So we have Jefferson, who works as a zero trust architect at Okta and is a trusted advisor among existing and new customers throughout APJ. Jefferson provides consultative solutions on how organizations can secure the different identities that exist within the ecosystem in a frictionless approach. Before Okta, he worked with multiple technology vendor organizations, thus allowing him to use this breadth of knowledge to help companies adopt a zero trust architecture model. And he'll be giving a talk on security with a phishing-resistant multi-factor approach with the title Harder, Better, Faster, and Stronger.
Amazing. Welcome, Jeff. I must say, I absolutely do love the talk, and I'm really, really excited for it. Like, I think the title is, quite eye-catching. So well done on picking that. If you just did want to just share your screen with your slides, we will pop them on, and then Surya and I will leave you to do your thing.
Thanks, Shilpi and Kumar. It's great to meet everyone. I think I'm happy to be part of this DevSecCon event. So I'll start sharing my screen now. Let me know if you're able to see it.
Amazing. I think we are in business. So yeah, Surya and me will just duck away to the background and we'll let you take it away.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so good morning for everyone in Europe, I think, because it's your day still starting. Good evening for APJ people who are still tuning in. Again, my name is Jefferson Haw, and I'm here to basically talk about how can you basically provide better security using phishing-resistant factors, right? Before I can start off my talk, I have to play this song because this was...
Make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
So that's where the inspiration of that title came from, right? That song. Again, let's go to the meat of the topic because I only have 20 minutes, right? So first thing foremost, right? Again, the agenda, right? So what I'm going to talk about is what are phishing attacks? Why are they happening? What is it doing? How it is happening? Then the next part of the section, what are we doing from a security security company? What are we doing to prevent phishing attacks? And basically, given I work for Okta, how can we prevent them from happening? Or how can we avoid phishing and prevent them from happening, right? And lastly, just key takeaway or summary. So first things first, what and why and how, what are phishing attacks? So phishing attacks is basically a simple yet dangerous and effective way to get data from any individual. Again, given that everyone recently done Black Friday or Cyber Monday, I think you might have received some sort of phishing attack on those days, right? So what phishing is trying to do is an attacker or a threat actor is trying to trick potential victims from sharing sensitive information or sending them money or doing account takeover, right? So this is why, as you heard, right, that Uber or the Twilio hacks that recently got reported started with a phishing attempt. And the problem with phishing attempt, it's very common these days, and it's very easy to lure people because the threat actors are trying to become creative, right? So let's first understand what are the different phishing approaches, right? So there are several phishing approaches. One is basically they call smishing. So I think once, most likely in everyone's lifetime, you might have received an SMS saying, "Hey, you just recently got a certain logistic. Click this link to basically pick up that delivery that you recently made," right? Even though you did one, right? So that's a smishing type of event where the attacker is using SMS. Then there's also phishing, which is using phone calls now. Again, every now and then you might, in Australia, I live in Sydney, I always get phone calls wherein the phone call is claiming to be a tax officer, wherein I need to pay them some amount because I'm in offense with some tax regulations, right? So that's phishing. Then there's the common ones that we normally receive back then, wherein it is called email phishing, spear phishing, or whaling, wherein this could be like your common service provider like Amazon or Netflix sending you an email saying for some reason something happened to your account and click this now that will lure you to provide credentials, right? The other approach of email phishing is it could be having an attacker being able to compromise your corporate or your employees or your colleagues' email such that they can use that email to send you links. And from there, it's more spear phishing because they're using it as a spear. And lastly, the catfishing or social media phishing, right? So this is basically how social engineering can be the start of getting information, wherein they would present themselves as people that you know, right? Even though you don't know it. So there's an example of how phishing works. Where again, from left to right, you'll see an email gets sent to the potential victim. The victim goes to that landing page wherein they will need to log in, and most of the phishing attacks are trying to spoof you, wherein they're trying to imitate as much as possible your login or your security system to the point that it looks like similar as the original one. And that's how phishing is very tricky and very scary now. Then just some facts, like there's every year phishing is always on the rise. There's actually a community now wherein it actually tracks all the phishing reports that they get from different users, and from there they're able to create a report wherein it entails how many people were phished, what were the impact or the damage that was happened, which industry was basically phished a lot, right? So that's why you can see that's where the source of this report came from. But one thing stands out: every year on year or month on month, everything goes up. Like phishing is going to be here forever. So what are threat actors doing now, right? Because I think everyone here is a DevSecOps or would say that I'm very IT literate, security literate, to that point that I can actually be able to detect if there's a phishing site or not. So, but the challenge is that, again, threat actors or adversaries are being creative now. So what do? So right now, what currently is available is what this tool called Evil Gene X. This is what I'm going to demonstrate later on, wherein this Evil Gene X acts as a proxy to your actual original security platform, wherein it will actually imitate how the look and feel of your security platform, wherein it can capture not only shared information, but also even imitate the MFA or 2FA side of things, right? So that's how creative this tool is. So if you want to research more, I think there's a GitHub repo, or do a quick Google search on how this works. But how this works in essence is basically the user is targeted, as you can see. The user is targeted with an email. User clicks that link with that phishing email or phishing link. What's happening is that this is an adversary in the middle or man in the middle attack, wherein the threat actor is using Evil Gene X to basically proxy your security platform or your legitimate web application. Then from there, they're able to imitate the login page, the authentication flow, the MFA flow, and eventually, once you're able to basically get spoofed with that login flow, you still get redirected to your actual page, right? But what's happening in the background, that tool is actually able to capture the credentials in the session cookie from their engine, right? From that phishing tool. Then from there, that phishing tool is able now to replay that cookie to imitate you, such that the threat actor has now have the ability to access your keys to the kingdom or your prized jewels. So this is basically how Uber or the Twilio hacks could happen as well in the background. So what are we doing from an industry standpoint, from a security industry standpoint, right? So what we're doing now is providing phishing-resistant factors or authenticators. So the three major factors of a phishing-resistant factor is it uses no shared secret. So what happens now, you don't need to provide an SMS OTP or a push notification confirmation to basically do that MFA challenge. What we're doing is using a cryptographically signed and private key stored in your machine, which could be stored in your hardware security module or your secure enclave, such that you'll be able to guarantee who you are and prove authenticity, and also make sure that MFA factor that's using this capability that's delivered via FIDO2 or WebAuthn is also upholding the highest security level or assurance level, right? It's origin bound, meaning that every time you enroll that phishing-resistant authenticator factor, it's only acknowledged and registered to the origin where you registered it. So meaning that if you registered it on an actual legitimate site that you control, that phishing-resistant factor will only work on that site. And lastly, it's trusted, right? So some like providers like Okta, we actually provide an authenticator that you can deploy on your workstation. And the great thing here is that you can use that as that authenticator can become an attestation piece that will allow us to make sure that everything is coming from a trusted flow, and we're also picking up additional signals out of it, right? So how does that work now in replay to the flow that I've shown earlier, right? So the difference now is that given the factor is no longer a shared secret, The biggest difference is that the threat actor cannot replay or proxy that MFA flow, because that's origin bound, meaning that once you replay use that authenticator to a different origin or URL, the MFA, the legitimate site will, or the authenticator, the phishing-resistant authenticator, will actually say that this is not the site where you registered it. So it will not even support allowing the user to continue forward, right? So what happens there, we're now preventing the threat actor to capture the MFA credentials and also being able to store or hijack that session cookie. So I just talked about how the technology or industry looks at phishing-resistant authenticators. Let's look at how Okta looks at it, right? Or how can Okta help? So how Okta can help, we actually employ defense in depth, right? So we rely phishing-resistant authenticators as one layer of security, but we also look at things in different layers, or we, like in an onion, you peel it in different layers, right? So what we're doing is basically using for different line of defense. The first line of defense could be the security policies that you define within Okta, where this will dictate which users are allowed to be challenged for certain authenticator factors. What policy do we want to enforce? The second line is the authenticator side of things, where how can we basically use phishing-resistant authenticators and pave way to a passwordless approach, right? Such that you can use it as a way to deliver a way where users don't even need to type in a password, where everything's bounded to that authenticator or that YubiKey that you're using. The third line of defense would be the contextual access, right? This is just basically how can we pick up additional signals, like whether are you using a corporate device, a BYOD device, are you using a device assurance? This is basically something new that Okta recently released, wherein how can we pick up like the version or the OS of your platform that you're using, whether it's jailbroken, is there security encryption applied on the hard disk level. Then there's also the network, the location, the threat insight side of things, wherein basically this is just basically using risk and also behavior as part of the process. And lastly, given it's a SecOps, DevSecCon conference, we look at observability. How do we make use of different systems to talk to one another such that we can deliver that SecOps approach, right, of things? So rather than talking more on Okta, let's actually go to the demo, right? So the demo will basically me replaying using Evil GNX deployed in an AWS machine, replicating an Okta service that's being proxied. Then I'll basically stop sharing. Give me a second. And I'll share my screen now. Give me a second. Window. Cool. Screen 2. Yep, cool. So what I'm gonna do is what I'm sharing to you right now is, give me a second, share. So you should see a blank screen where it will have just a terminal. So what I'm gonna do now is basically run Evil GNX. So as you can see, that's Evil GNX running in the background, right? So that's gonna be proxying Okta. So how would that look like is, let's say I will show my actual give me a second. Cool. I will actually show the actual Okta service that's legitimate. So as you can see, this is the actual legitimate atcouni.okta.com. Sorry about that one. So that's the legitimate website, right? So as you can see, because I'm based in Sydney, everything is like showing in Sydney background. So right now I have a test user called Scott Blank. So right now, this is the legitimate website, and I'm gonna run it now with a fake website on the right-hand side here, right? I'm gonna use Evil GNX to proxy everything. So normally, again, the phishing link will be delivered through an email, but right now I'm just gonna do it in manual fashion. So as you can see, given I'm just spoofing it, I'm trying to make it as dangerous as possible, right? I didn't even loaded my trusted SSL certs. But again, if I was attempting to phish people, my role is just to add proper certs here to make it like look as legit as possible. So as you can see right now, this is now me loading again, like I'll just have it on the right side. So as you can see, this is approximately replicated the same, right? It looks similar as it can be, to the point like it looks very true to itself, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically log in as a test user, Scott, And on the left-hand side, you can see, right, that's basically Evil Gnex running, right? So right now, I'll just show how you can basically, how Evil Gnex can phish users. So I'm now being asked for a password. As you can see, the password is captured. Now this is the craziest part, right? So if I actually proxy the push notification as well, as you can see, I'm able to deliver a push. And the problem with this one, this is also, with this approach, attackers can now do phishing bombs, or sorry, MFA fatigue, where they'll just keep pushing MFA to the user to the point that automatically the user will just submit to that phishing bomb, right? So automatically, as soon as I was able to log in, I was able to, again, log in successfully to Okta. And now, if I actually go to sessions, I'll just stop there. I can see that I'm able to, I'll just cancel this one. Yep, cancel that one. So as you can see, I'm able to hijack Scott's session now, what's happening in the background. So how do we prevent this, right? So to prevent this, what we can do is basically apply phishing-resistant authenticators, right? So when I mean phishing-resistant authenticators, what we want to do is, rather than using a password to log in, I can actually still use like what we can do is basically use an authenticator that Okta provides. And this authenticator is what we call Okta Verify, right? So Okta Verify is an authenticator that gets installed in the user's machine, and automatically that becomes like the way how we can challenge user for authentication. Right now, it's preventing the user to log in now because the authenticator is able to verify that this is a fake site, right? So what's happening now, we're not able to proceed to even to log in, right? So what's also nice is that if I actually share the system logs from Okta's side, again, right, we're able to basically capture an event that is saying that the user has been phished. Give me a second. I think there's a lot of things happening here. Pass decline phishing attempt. So this is how Okta is able to prevent phishing attempts, because our authenticator app is automatically able to predict if it's a phishing attempt or not. And that's the great thing with Okta, where in truth, authenticators like phishing-resistant authenticators, we're able to prevent users from preventing them from actually being able to be phished from proxy providers like Evil Gnex. One thing I also want to show is basically part of the process, the background. Every time a phishing attack is captured by Okta to that event, we're actually even able to orchestrate an email in the background that can be triggered and sent to your administrators or to the end user that they were phished, or they were almost phished. And we can now prevent them, give them awareness that they should not be attempting to log into that fake or malicious site. So that's how basically how Okta is able to apply harder, better, faster, stronger security with phishing-resistant factors. So going back to my slide, just to cap off. Give me a second. Yep, here. So to cap off, like this is how Okta was able to prevent phishing attacks. The person was lured to a fake website. User visits a fake website. Given that the user was able to click with login with Okta through Okta FastPass, we're able to basically sign response with origin header and device context signals to our Okta service. Given that source or attempt was coming from a malicious website, we're able to create a phishing alert and basically automatically alert the user with suspicious activity. And in the background, we're able to achieve a SecOps capability to drive email or SMS notification. So in summary, the key takeaways is basically how can you basically apply harder security by applying phishing-resistant authenticators within your organization. Better because we want to leverage different signals and risk as part of the context evaluation. We want to make it faster because we want to apply a passwordless approach, which I did earlier, right? If we click that sign in with Okta FastPass button, if it's a legitimate website, the user will automatically be able to log in without providing any password. Hence, we're avoiding shared secrets being transmitted over the wire. And lastly, stronger. So what we want to do is enforce observability, regardless what's happening in the background. We're all continuously analyzing the different events or vectors that Okta is processing and other systems are processing, such that we can deploy a security orchestration event. So, and that, in a nutshell, is harder, better, faster, stronger security with phishing-resistant factors. And thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Jeff. I think that was, I think I am going to ask the organizers to mandate a song at the beginning of every talk. I think that was just amazing. And I think, yeah, what a wonderful way to start. But I think also such an important talk. I think MFA is one of those things. We're in 2022, and I think it's still one of those things that people just don't understand and the importance of. And I think you beautifully portrayed the whole transition, and the demo gods were also with you, which is amazing. Really enjoyed that talk. Thank you so much. Kumar, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I always see MFA or phishing type of attacks from an operations standpoint. It's one of the most common attack vectors. And as you mentioned, MFA fatigue is pretty common too. And different steps are being taken at the moment to like remediate this threat. And yeah, it's pretty good talk.
That's
amazing.
great.
I just did have we do have some love for you from people who are watching live. So someone has said Jefferson is the best. He used to work with you. I think Randall has said.
Yeah, shout out to Randall. Shout out to Randall.
So lots of love there. And also a quick question. What's the best way to get into the IAM space?
Yeah,
Seems
I
like
would say
it's part of the industry to work in.
correct. So yeah, security will always be part of the ecosystem, right? As you can see, that's why we have DevSecCon, right? Because back then it was purely DevOps only. That there's a shift to DevSecOps, right? I think IAM again is the foundation for IAM is just basically trying to get the foundations right. Either you're coming from a network engineer, system administrator, or security administrator, or an identity expert. In the end of the day, IAM is just part of the foundational pieces, right? Because in the end of the day, every login journey starts with a user. And the user is someone like us, where we type in something. And the great thing is that technology is trying to provide more, I would say, advanced and more user experience ways of providing higher level security assurance, right? So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of passkeys. That's also one thing that we're hearing a lot. And this one is commonly like the YubiKeys. I know my background is, but I would say to be in IAM is just trying to get your hands on building like at least the front door of your system. Then from there, you start from there and learn the security concepts that you want to apply such that you can build stronger ways to protect your app. And also how can you also make sure that you store your, I would say, the data behind it as well.
Amazing. No, thank you. And you're quite right. It's like I love how all of us in cybersecurity love using like analogies. So like as you said, front door, IAM. And I think it's one of those like really pivotal things in cybersecurity. I am so important, and even getting more and more important, I think, as things are transitioning to the cloud. So no, lovely talk. Thank you so much. You squeezed a lot of value into 15 minutes. So thank you so much for joining us at DevSecCon. We've got our next speaker lined up. So I will put you to the backstage, Jefferson. Thanks again for everything.
Thank you.